Deputy John Brady.
Thanks, Cahirlook, and I just want to thank Dr. Miller and Dr. Crossley for coming in, as well as June from Bernardo's and the ladies here from Spark as well. And I agree with Deputy D. Unfortunately, there's not too much in here that we don't know already, but I think the report, the Miller report, if you don't mind me calling it that, certainly, the fact that it was funded by the department, I think certainly raises some very, very significant points. So I suppose that the first question I'll ask as to whether at this stage there has been any formal response from the department to the report which has been submitted, although, look, we did have the Minister in last month, and it kind of coincided with the report, and some of his answers were a little bit less than desirable, let me say, in relation to the report. He seemed to indicate that the report went off on a completely different tangent in which they had wanted it to. Tough. These are the hard facts, these are the hard realities, and if it isn't a report that, on the findings in which he wanted, I'm very, very sorry for the Minister. Now, unfortunately, we've had the budget and we've seen some minor changes there, and I think, unfortunately, lone parents haven't been given the political importance or significance in which they deserve. And we've seen, and everyone around the table has seen, the impacts of the changes that were implemented by Fine Gael and Labour back in 2012. But those who had the opportunity to make the changes, the needy changes in the budget, on foot of the Miller report and that, sitting around negotiating the budget, the focus wasn't put there. We see where there was a huge political incentive, or well, not incentive, pressure put on the government to increase the old age pension. And a lot of media play around that by some parties around this table. There was a €5 increase. Unfortunately, that pressure wasn't applied by parties who had the power to do so. And we know all the figures, and they're contained in the presentations. 22.1% of children in lone parent families live in consistent poverty. And if that isn't reason enough for, politicians, for government, for the Minister to take action, we've had him in here talking about measures to tackle poverty. He's been talking about, measures and plans to tackle child poverty and that, but yet the changes that have been made in 2012 are compounding the poverty. And indeed, the submission from Spark shows quite clearly that there's no incentive for lone parents to go back into the workforce. Indeed, they're worse off going back into the workforce. So, all that talk is cheap when those who had the opportunity to make the real changes abdicated their responsibilities. I suppose just to ask that question again of Dr. Miller, I mean, the report has been submitted, I assume, to the Minister and to his office and the department officials. Have you had any official response back? Has there been any report? Certainly I haven't seen any report from the department on the findings of the Miller report. I'd be interested to see if indeed Jews had heard back. And I suppose the Miller report recommended that to quote, the international evidence suggests the importance of monitoring private companies and sanctions when it comes to job activation schemes. And we know that there's a huge push now to to drive people into these labour activation schemes or job activation schemes. And can I just ask that point, and I think it's an important point that is made within the report, can you elaborate on that a little bit, and what kind of monitoring would you suggest? Because we know from JobBridge, and I'm not going to get into all of that now, but the audit that was carried out in relation to JobBridge identified that as a major failure, that there was no monitoring. So it's interesting to note that you also identified that as well. So just to ask that specific question. And also the whole the whole issue of childcare, and we know this is one of the barriers facing lone parents and parents right across the state going back into the workforce, but none more so than lone parents. And we know that the changes, the single affordable childcare scheme that was announced within the budget, I would be interested to see as to whether Dr Miller or Dr Crossley has any views on that. What are your thoughts on it, as to whether you think it is going to be beneficial, or whether changes are needed? So, look, I think it is, it's a very important report that has been commissioned. And I think there's a lot to take from it, but it doesn't, it doesn't, I suppose, raise any issues that we didn't know around this table already. But it is contained within a document. Just, I suppose, with a specific, I suppose, a couple of questions there to Barnardo's, and I know I've had different meetings with Barnardo's since my election to Leinster House, and certainly, to see the work that Barnardo's do, in their pre-budget submissions and their specific, work. I commend all the work that you do there. And I know that Barnardo's have suggested a targeted increase in the child benefit for children over 12, and we know that the impact lowering the age to 7 for lone parents, and the significant impact that has had. You're suggesting a targeted increase of the child benefit for children over 12. Can I just ask, what are your views on the termination of child benefit for children at 18? Because certainly that has had a huge impact right across the board. There's a lot of talk about the back-to-school clothing and footwear allowance. Unfortunately, there was no measures introduced, to tackle the serious and escalating costs of sending children back to school. And again, I put a number of questions to the Minister, and the reality is I don't think he actually gets it. He had the audacity to stand up in the Dáil and try to argue that the cost of sending children back to school has actually dropped. The cost of a pair of shoes has dropped. The cost of a uniform has dropped. But the reality, and we see it there by, reports even from the League of Credit Unions, from Vincent de Paul, and all the other analysis that have been carried out in terms of sending children back to school, it has significantly increased, so but there is, when the child benefit was dropped down from 18, that has had a serious impact. So just to see as to whether you have any views on that, and is it something that Barnardo's have actually given any consideration towards?
Deputy, very briefly, because I have a considerable number, but I can come back to you at the end if there's time.
Okay.
I want to give everybody an opportunity.
Okay,
but
just
here today.
Just a couple of questions there for Spark. I won't get into it all there. Given the huge issue of maintenance, have Spark a proposed international child maintenance model that they have studied or recommended? Just the issue of the maintenance, and I know the letters that have been sent out to the liable relatives, the impact that has had, and the fact that parents are told that unless they seek maintenance, they will face financial sanctions. So, there's a huge issue there that on one hand, letters are being sent out to liable relatives telling them that you have no responsibility, you have no obligations to pay maintenance, and yet, the parent looking after the child is told that, look, unless you go get maintenance, this is going to directly impact on you. And just one more question. Do you have any figures in relation to the number of lone parents in receipt of child maintenance? I think it would be very, very helpful. I've tried to get it, so just to ask, there are some other questions, and maybe I can come in at
if
a
we have time
stage.
at the end, I'll come back to you.
Thank you,
Auditor. Deputy Brady, I cut you short and I said, wait your turn, Senator, I'm getting to you. I did say I would afford you an opportunity, and you, Senator Higgins, but Deputy Brady, I cut him short. So if you have a couple of quick questions.
Just a couple of quick ones there. Just to Dr. Miller again. The report is obviously being published.
Sorry, apologies.
Just to see as to whether there has been any official response from the department or the minister. So I suppose just to
sorry,
put that
yes,
first.
sorry, Deputy, and I didn't mean to get back to you on that. The report was emailed to the department. We constantly worked with the department throughout the tender, and we emailed the report to the department at the start of September, when it was proofed and all ready to go. So yes, and we had a response. It was individuals in the social inclusion unit in the department that we were dealing with.
And there has been no official, I suppose, report back from them, or nothing, no feedback on the contents of the report.
No, we were thanked for our report.
You were thanked. Okay.